Thank you, Council and Parish President Cochran, for allowing me to speak tonight on behalf of the department. Parish President Cochran has asked us to focus on service since coming into office. And part of that service, you're receiving a packet right now of thank yous and acknowledgments from people in businesses and residences that have gone through the process and dealt with us over the past year. At the beginning of the year, we started with a project internally in the office to have the employees rewrite our mission statement. And what you see up on the first slide there is the new mission statement for the department. It was a really good exercise because for over a week or more, we had employees talking about why they were there and what they were doing and why it mattered. And I think when you come in these days, that's the sense you're going to get from the department. To continue on talking about service, Earl, if you go to the next one, I want to talk about what we've done over the past year. To start with, we have a comprehensive policy manual for the department. This is a living, breathing thing. You can come into the office. It is the Bible in planning and zoning. Everything that we do has been documented, written down, gone over by an administrator, and signed off by me. So there is no more trying to determine which policy is in effect or what procedures anyone is operating off of. This is all documented. There is no confusion. And when we say we're going by the book, we are going by the book. We have started the process of auctioning adjudicated properties through our partners with Civic Source. Currently, one property is up for auction with about a half dozen more coming up by the middle of the year. Every year, properties that are on the adjudicated tax rolls, as their time comes up, which is 5 years, they will be put up for sale, and we will no longer be responsible for maintenance, while those properties will be put back into use. Our code enforcement officers have gone to a significant training program this year with the American Association of Code Enforcement, and they are now all tech upgraded in the field. Their tablets get all of the cases and reports, and when we complete that upgrade that we're doing, they'll be able to manage everything from the field through that. We have worked with the Public Information Office to start the Flood Aware program. Right now, all parish residents get a 10% discount on their flood insurance because of the efforts of the coastal zone management portion of our office. With this program, we seek to increase that to 15%. The department basically, through a little bit of research, came across the savings that the A99 flood zone residents could take advantage of, resulting in an average of about $1,000? About $1,000 per insurance policy per year for most of those people in that dark red on that map up there. And our professional planning staff put together the parish's first garden home ordinance, allowing for a diversification of our housing stock over the next few years. In the past year, we've completed an implementation audit of what the department is doing in terms of the comprehensive plan. We have updated our zoning maps. We have updated the future land use map and are continuing to do that. We have seen the bicycle and pedestrian safety plan approved, and it is now underway. Those steering committees are going to start in the next few weeks. Of significant note, our coastal master plan was approved this year, which is a very big step for local government going forward. And we are still looking at continuing the zoning code update with a second phase this year. Go ahead, Earl. This is our permitting staff. These are the faces that you see when you come into our office, if you're unfamiliar with them. Next. These are some permit numbers which you have in your packet. Most of it's consistent. Some of it is a little misleading with the statistics this year because of how we calculate things. The carport and patio covers are no longer counted as additions because they really aren't additions to the building, so it's lowering the numbers. And we made changes to how change of use permits are required. So when you go into a new home, you don't have to go through an additional step and $25 fee. So it's lowering some of those numbers. But the standard, the important thing is new residential, commercial, all that's keeping pace. This is our planning and coastal staff. Of note, both of our coastal people are certified floodplain managers, and Our planning staff, 2 out of 3 of them are now certified professional planners, with the third going to take the test this fall. Land use applications have held consistent. Of note, there have been 217 new lots platted in the preliminary plat process over the past year. It's a significant amount of development in the pipeline. Next. This is our code enforcement staff. Most of you probably have regular dealings with them in one form or another. We receive, go ahead to the next one. We receive over 1,000 complaints every year, and 1/4 of them are resolved completely. Again, that's a little misleading because people complain about stuff and it may not be something that we can deal with. It may not be something that we can do, or we could have 10 people call about one problem. So our closure rate is actually very high. It's in the 90s. I'll go back 1 second. With the pictures here, a lot of things that we deal with in the department are done way prior to going to legal. This was an incident of working with a resident and family to clear out a blighted structure. Our guys are behind the scenes dealing with a lot of stuff that you never see, and that's the point. Everything that we deal with that you don't have to see is a feather in the cap of the parish. We all go to the next one. We also deal with some interagency stuff. You know, this was something that we worked with the utilities. This is no man's land, essentially, and no one wants to cut it, but our inspectors find the people to talk to make sure that that happens. Next one. This is kind of just a little flow chart talking about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Talked about public service. We're working very hard to modernize our tech, our code, and the way we approach things. Our dealings with the business community have improved. Our pre-application meetings have been very successful in seeing projects to fruition. Business partners that come in and actually participate in the process and talk with our folks and make notes during the meeting are going through very quickly and very successfully. And we're really working hard to fulfill the administration's, that's my 10 minutes, plan for growth here. I'm going to kick it over to Earl so he can wrap up for us. I try.
Just to give you a little details on some of the things that that Michael's already mentioned. Our coastal zone, our local coastal program was submitted to Louisiana Department of Natural Resources back in 2016. The way that worked is that our Coastal Zone Advisory Committee worked on it and approved it, sent it to you, you approved it. The next step that you haven't seen was that it went up to Louisiana Department of Natural Resources. That actually had to go all the way to the governor for approval, and it got its approval on September 27th, 2016. They then turned around and turned in a modification to the Louisiana plan to include St. Charles Parish with the federal plan. And NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, signed off on our program on November the 10th. The next step is going to be considering a contract with the state of Louisiana, which is going to provide funds to defer costs of the program. We don't have a dollar amount on that yet because they're still working on the state budget. But that's the next thing you guys are going to see is that. And then once the contract's signed, St. Charles Parish will start receiving and considering local coastal permits on July 1st of this year. So all of the small ones, all the little mom and pops and small permits that we can do locally, we will do locally. So they won't have to deal with state or federal government at all. We'll do it all in-house. One of our big projects this year, what we're very proud of, is through a donation from Arkema, the Coastal Zone Management Section with Recreation and Public Works. We're able to put concrete on the end of the fishing jetty. The fishing jetties, as you know, is real popular, but every time we've had heavy rainfalls, we've had a lot of erosion to its surface, making it just a little dangerous. Arkema's come forward and donated the money to lay the concrete. The concrete was barely dry when Eagle Scout candidate Mr. Anthony DiStefano called me and asked if he could work on his Eagle Scout project on the jetty. It's a little hard to see here, but what he's done is he's made 4 benches And the benches are very similar to the ones if you've ever been to Animal Kingdom. Each of the backs is shaped like a redfish, a catfish, a turtle, and an alligator. So the backs of the benches are actually ornate. In addition to that, the way he's mounted them, they're mounted on chains, so they can be faced in to use during when we do classrooms and classes out there, or they can be faced out to use when people are fishing. So they've been real popular. The picture at the bottom there is Anthony and the rest of his scouts and volunteers that actually made the benches. So we wanted to thank them. Let's see. St. Charles Parish just got an update to the Special Projects Committee on the 22nd about the lamp modeling. I've kind of moved on to floodplain management. And all indications are that modeling is going to reduce the proposed base flood elevations that we've been looking at for the last couple of years. But as the modelers warned us that night, and as I'll mention again today, there's still quite a bit of work to be done before we know for sure. The National Flood Insurance Program, as many of you know, is due to expire in June 2017. That's not anything new or weird. That's just when the next cycle comes up, and that's a federal reauthorization. That reauthorization is in full swing, both in the Senate and the House. St. Charles Parish has been both answering questions and writing questions for our federal delegation for their hearings with FEMA. So we've been participating as much as we can. Again, we keep emphasizing the importance of affordability in those. These numbers are as of this week. Since 2013, where the prices of flood insurance has started to rise, FEMA has lost 556,004 policies. So that's 500,000 houses that just simply drop their flood insurance. And instead of the sad thing about that is that they've raised the prices so much that they have 500,000 fewer policies, but they are collecting $28 million more a year. So you can see that those of us who still have flood insurance policies are carrying an increased burden each year. Okay. Now in St. Charles Parish, our big change was the way FEMA treats the A99 premiums. So we've seen a recovery. In fact, last year, this year we actually have 716 more than we had the year before. So for a total loss of only 331 policies, so that's not terrible. And then just to sum up, or to give you a little bit more detail on what Michael had mentioned before, we're cooperating with the Public Information Office and the Emergency Operations Center for the Flood Aware program. The Flood Aware Committee was formed to compile a plan for public information that informs residents on local flood risk and promote flood insurance coverage. Like most things you do with FEMA, it's not just what you do, but it's how you document what you do. And the only way to get credit for the things that we already do in public information is to make a plan. And to have a plan, you have to have a committee. So we're working on all those steps to get us credit for what we already do very well. Okay, and like Michael said, the plan is to increase our CRS rating, and therefore we're within striking distance of getting another 5% reduction. So with that, that's all I have.